in the sense that they bring problem onto themselves. We had a Hindi talkback show. 90% of the callers of Indian origin, they alleged that women bring problems on themselves. They cheat on their husbands, they have extramarital affairs. Okay. That's why the violence starts. Okay. But do you accept that? Anish,
that's like, you're holding a red flag to a bull when you ask me that question, because it's absolute nonsense. I've been doing talkback shows for nearly 25 years, and I tell you those questions have been coming on and on and on, and particularly from the Indo-Fijian community. And that is such a misconception and a myth that women ask for it. The blame, and that is one of the reasons we have not been able to stop violence against women, is because of the blaming women syndrome. I'll tell you what. Who has given rights to men to do this to women? Is there anywhere in the religious books, in the law, that says if your wife has an affair, if she talks back to you, you need to beat her to a pulp? And you should see the women who come to us to believe what men do to them. And, one day maybe I can recite one by one, what men actually do to women. And there is no excuse for that. And people must live a life of dignity without torture. If your wife is having an affair, ask her to leave. You still don't have the right to beat her up to a pulp or kill her. When men have affairs, do women beat them up? We have to ask those questions also. Who has given men the right to do that? And that is what we call about discrimination against women, gender inequality, and so on.
Elizabeth, how do you get a man to respect a woman 100%?
Well, as we said, I think you have to start at you have to address every level of society, and you have to try to bring about change. And I know the discussion that we had again yesterday at the meeting convened by the government is, where do you work? Do you work with older people? Do you work with young people? But I think the answer is you need to work with everybody, because in certain sectors and aspects of our society, the older people will still have sway, will still make the decisions about whether a case should go to court, whether a case should be covered up. They may convene in some kind of informal justice system. They will be very decisive. People who are out in the workforce, people who are teachers, people who are shaping the attitudes and behaviours of younger people, we have to be able to reach them. And for many of them, this is also it's a deeply challenging, transformative process that they need to go through, because they need to come out of their own situation that they've been living, or they've grown up to believe is something they can't speak out against. And of course we need to work with younger people, we need to work with churches, we need to work in homes. But I just want to add that I think this whole argument too, because I've worked for the last 30 years in Papua New Guinea, many of those years I've spent with organisations working on violence against women, and one hears it not only in Papua New Guinea and Fiji, the excuse is created, not the excuse even, it is a possessiveness and jealousy that men often have, and even the most extraordinary thing, because I've also worked very much in HIV/AIDS work, and even the most extraordinary thing where the whole community knows that the man is the one who is out having affairs, he has the freedom to move out, she's been at home, and yet when there's violence committed, he will publicly claim she's having affairs, or when HIV is discovered in the family, he will blame her. And it is incredible how people also join in and blame the woman. And we know that this possessiveness of men, this control of men, this deflection of facing the facts that maybe it's you who's not been faithful in the relationship, and now you have these consequences. This is often the case. So it's a very poor excuse for violence, but it's also an indication of the kind of control and the kind of projection of the behaviours that the man himself is involved in onto the woman, and an excuse to, well, it is put forward as though this is a legitimate excuse.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the show. Shamim Ali, let's speak about this report that was done in 1999. We understand it was a review of the sexual offences penalties under the penal code. That report is still not actioned. Yes. Do you need this report to be actioned, and what are some of the future plans or strategy that an organization like yours wants in this country, so that we are able to move ahead quickly?
Well, definitely. I mean, those reports, many of us made submissions towards that report.